Hey everyone, welcome back to channel, and this is the day 4 of our Kubernetes series, and today we are going to discuss about the pods. Okay, so in our previous classes we have covered about the Kubernetes architecture, and also we have installed the local cluster. Okay, so let's start with the pods, and it's going to be the hands-on session in which you will be writing your first YAML obviously, and also we'll see what is pods. Okay, so let's just begin with, we'll start with a very basic thing, right? Whenever you work with Docker, so there basically we have containers, right? And what is Kubernetes? Kubernetes is nothing but a tool, or the whatever you can say tool, which is used to orchestrate. What does it orchestrate? It orchestrates the containers. Orchestration is nothing but the management, you can say. So Kubernetes is basically used to manage the containers, right? So when you are running your containers, when you want to run your containers in a Kubernetes, where do you run it? You run it inside a pod. Okay, so in Kubernetes, a pod is not one resource, one kind of resource where you run your containers in a very simple and easy language. You can say that, but in the official documentation and all, you will see like Kubernetes is the very smallest deployable unit, and yeah, it's so basically smallest because it's the very first thing where your container starts running and all. Okay, so I will just let you know with some diagram how it actually looks. So whenever you run a pod, okay, so in that pod we define containers. Okay, so let's say it's some Java application or any kind of Python application or any application you can just consider. So in a pod we are having this container, and also what happens sometimes in different use cases, in one pod you can have multiple containers. Okay, so that is also one possibility somewhere, maybe in your organization, at some different organization there are a few cases where we run it. Okay, so basically in pod usually preferable thing is like you should always go for the single container. Okay, so this is the same thing is written over here. Okay, multiple container pod exists too, and yeah, it Kubernetes supports it. Okay, so let's just move forward about writing out the very first YAML file. So here, YAML file first time it will look bit tough for you, but it's not much tough. Okay, it's so easy, only very easy. So the very first thing, whenever we write the YAML file for the Kubernetes, so there you need to take care of the indentation and all. So you can just install any VS Code like extension for the YAML. That will be very helpful for you. Okay. So now the very first thing, let's write our the pod YAML. So here we have the very first thing, that is the API version. Okay, so the here we have defined as the v1. So why v1? Because in Kubernetes we have some like resources like these whatever pods, deployments, stateful set, so many things we have in Kubernetes, right? For each thing we have defined, like Kubernetes have defined the versions for it. Okay, so for the pod, it has been defined as the we have to use the v1 version. So it just kind of syntax you can just consider. Okay, so the very first thing that is clear, right? API version, like which version to use. Then we have the kind. Kind means what you want to deploy. You want to deploy a pod, you want to deploy a deployment, a stateful set, a persistent volume. I know these words you might be feeling what are those things. I don't want to get into those things at this moment. So we'll stick with the pod. So we just consider pod is just one kind of resource you have in the Kubernetes. Okay. Then you have the metadata. Obviously, with the name, you can just guess it's just a metadata, meta information about your pod, where we define the name, and also later on we define some different things as well. We will come to that. And this is the important part, that is a spec. Okay, so in a spec we basically define the containers, what containers we want to run, basically which image you want to run in a pod. So those information you basically define it here. Okay, so now what I will do is that let me just go over the screen first. Okay, so here what I will do, I will just create a directory using Kubernetes series. Okay, and here I can just create a pod. Okay, so we'll just move into this directory inside the pod, and also make sure you are running this mini cube in your system. The status should be running. Okay, so you can say it's running. Okay, if it's not running, you can just run the command minikube start, it will start running. Okay, so let's just write the YAML file. So here I'm using the VI editor of the Linux inbuilt. For you, if you don't want to use VI, you can just go for the what we can say, VS Code or any editor. That's completely fine. It's up to you. Okay. So here I preferably like I prefer to write. So API version, we will define the v1, right? Then we have the kind. What kind of resource I want to deploy in Kubernetes? I want to deploy a pod, right? Then we have metadata. So in metadata, I will give the name. What name I want to give to my pod? I will just give the my pod. Okay. So make sure this indentation. Okay, there should be always the proper indentation. Then you have the spec. In spec, what we define the containers. And here, one thing you have to make sure container basically accepts list. Okay, so in YAML we have a syntax. Whenever you give list, so it starts with the hyphen. Okay, so here we'll give the name, my count, and image we will give the nginx. Okay, then what we can do again, we can just, if you want to give another image, you can give like this same name, my count 2, and same image you can give something nginx. Okay, so for now I'll just go for the only single image. Okay, let's just do it. So yeah, so now next thing what you have to do is that you have to just basically run this command kubectl apply. So kubectl is the binary which we have installed, that is apply is the one argument we are giving, and hyphen if is the file name. So file name will give the pod.yaml. So here you will see something called my pod and then your pod name created. Okay. Now the next thing is here you have to just check your pods whether your pods is running or not. For that, what you will do, you will just do the kubectl get pods. So here you will see container is creating. Okay. So once this container will be created, then we can just you can just do get pods again and again just to see. And also what you can do is that get pods hyphen w if you do, so you don't have to do it again and again, you don't have to run the commands again and again, it will show you over here only. So now until it's running, I will just tell you the one concept here is that okay, now you can say it's running, so you can just control C. Okay, so now here the one thing you should understand is that, so we defined the image, right? Here you can see the image, we have defined the nginx. So now from where this nginx image is coming up, so by default this image comes from the Docker Hub. Okay, so whatever Docker Hub is the place where images are stored, so there, from there it basically pulls the image. Okay, so now if you'll see the next thing here, hmm, okay, let's just do kubectl get pods. So you will see your pod is running, right? Next what you have to do is that next you can just try to play with different kubectl commands. So you can, if you want to check the logs of your pod, you can just see kubectl logs and your pod name. Okay, so here you can see this is the log of your normal nginx. So this is the same log which we get while running the nginx. Okay, so it's the same thing even if you run like this docker run nginx. Latest if I do the same, so I will get the same logs. So we'll just wait. I would just want to show you what actually is happening. So once the image gets pulled, you can see the logs over here. Okay, so just to make you understand what's exactly is running, so inside the pod you are having these things. Okay, so it's extracting, we'll just wait for it. Okay, status is downloaded new image. Yeah, so here you can see the same logs, you got it right, started worker process 36, and here also we did logs, so you can see the same thing. Okay, so inside your pod your container is running, so that is the one thing just I wanted to show you. Okay, now what you can do is that now we'll just go and try to see what are the different things we have to cover. So first API version that I already covered, right? So core resources like pods belong to the original core API group. Okay, so in Kubernetes we have something called the API group. There all these version and all is defined. Okay, similarly, like pod we have some deployment, that is the different issues that we'll talk later. Okay, so next thing was the kind, that also we talk. So Tells Kubernetes exactly what type of resource you are creating. Okay, and also at last we will see this is the metadata information. So today we use this name. Okay, and also you can have different metadata like labels, annotation, namespaces. So that and all we'll see later on. Okay, then you have a spec, the blueprint, right? So here we define the containers and we applied, so pod created, right? This we saw. Now here there's an important thing which you should understand is that when you ran the kubectl command, at that time what happened, it sent the request to your API server. So API server, what it does, it validates the YAML. After that, it desired state is stored into your etcd, right? Then scheduler is the one which decides which node runs the pod. Okay, so that information also we will see how we can see it. Okay, then you have the kubelet receives the instruction pod, and then kubelet pulls the image and starts the container. Okay, this container runtime. So now if you want to check one thing, if you just do kubectl get pods hyphen wide, so here you will see the node. So this is the node on which your pod is running. So minikube is having only one node. If you use just to kubectl get nodes, so here you will see minikube, right? So on this node only your pod is running, and this is the IP of your pod. And also one more thing what I want to show you is that pods IP are basically ephemeral. Okay, so what does it mean? It means basically whenever you can see at this point, right? Every pod gets its own unique IP, like other pods can use the IP to communicate with directly, right? So pods IPs are temporary. Okay, if you delete a pod, so what happens? Kubernetes, whenever again you want to create a pod, so Kubernetes gives that pod the new IP. Okay, so now yeah, let's just delete this. So how you can do it? Kubectl delete hyphen f pod.yaml. Okay, so it's got deleted. Now if I just do kubectl apply, and again if I do the get pods hyphen wide, so it's creating. When it gets created, then we can just see. Okay, so it's now running. So here you can see the IP got changed from here 2.2 to 4.0.4. Here it's 5. Okay, so this is also one important thing which you should always remember. So pod IPs are not permanent. Whenever it gets deleted, even along with the data gets deleted, and also IP gets changed. Okay, so this you should always remember when someone asks you. Okay, now let's discuss about the single versus multi-container pods. Okay, so most common we have, right, one pod, one container. Okay, but we have some different like multiple tightly coupled containers as well. Like one container is the main application, another container will be used for collecting the logs, sending to some different what we can say, some different services, all these things. Okay, so this is about your multi containers. And yeah, here we are having one production example. Suppose your app writes log files. Okay, so you are running a Spring Boot application. Okay, it creates so many logs, right? So what we can do in a one pod, this is your main application, this will be your log wala container. Okay, this container, what it can do, it can basically read the logs from this container, and it can send it to some different services like Elasticsearch or different monitoring tools. Okay, so this is one example, and actually it happens also in production environments. Okay, so let's just see the quick recap. What are the things we covered today? So what a pod is, then API version, kind, metadata spec, these 4 5 things we saw in YAML file. Then why pod IPs are temporary. Then we wrote out the first YAML. Then what happens after kubectl apply, single versus multiple container pods. Okay. So one understanding for this video is that a pod is the smallest unit Kubernetes deploys, and the YAML manifest simply describes the desired state of the pod. Okay. So in YAML base, that means basically whatever we want, we write into our YAML, and Kubernetes basically does the same thing. Okay. So yeah, that's it for this particular video, guys. And if you have any question, you can just ask me in the comment section. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and hit the subscribe button. So see you in the next one. Thank you so much.